Separation is never equal. Sylvia Mendez and her family's fight for desegregation by Duncan Natta, written and illustrated by the same person. What are their schools like to look like to be different from each other? Silver had on her black shoes. They were shiny new. Her hair was perfectly parted into two long tresses. It was her first day at the Westminster School. The halls were crowded with students. She was looking for a locker when a young white boy pointed at her and yelled, "Go back to the Mexican school. You don't belong here." For the rest of the day, Silva did not speak or introduce herself in her classes. She kept her head down when walking the hallways. When she got home at the afternoon, she told her mom, "Felicitas, what happened? I don't want to go to that school anymore. The kids are mean." Silva, her mother said her mother, please don't slander me on my bad Spanish. No sabes que es la por esta los más. Don't you know this is why we fought? How do you feel about how do you feel about segregation? 3 years earlier, in the summer of 1944, Silva and her brothers Jerome and Gonzalo Jr. and their parents moved from the crowded cities of Santa Ana, California, to a farm in nearby Westminster. Her father, Gonzalo Mendez, had labored for years as a field worker, picking grapes and oranges. Now he was leasing a farm and he was going to be the boss. And on their new farm, they were going to grow asparagus, chiles, and tomatoes. What do you like about farms? When the summer came to an end and the first day of school neared, Aunt Soledad drove Silva, her brothers, and their cousins Elise and Virginia to the local public school on 17th Street so they could enroll. Silva was going to enter third grade, Gonzalo was going to enter second, and Jerome first. What a handsome building, thought Silva as they pulled into the parking lot. Tall trees lined the streets in front of the school. There was a playground with monkey bars and a red swing. When they walked into the school, they noticed that the hallways were spacious and clean. What do you like about the school? I'm here to enroll the children in school, said Aunt Soledad when they arrived at the principal's office. The secretary gave Aunt Soledad two enrollment forms, one for Elise and one for Virginia. But she did not give her enrollment forms for Silver and her brothers. They cannot attend this school, said the secretary. They must go to the Mexican school. Why do I have to go to the Mexican school? Silver wondered. She was not American. She was not Mexican. She was American. She spoke perfect English. Her father was from Mexico, but he had become a U.S. citizen, and her mom was from Puerto Rico, which was a U.S. territory. And so that was upset. But we all live in this part of town. How do you feel about inequality? Silva looked at her cousins. They had light skin with longer burnt hair, and their last name was Vidari. Their father was Mexican but of French descent. Then she looked at her brothers, at her own hands and her bare arms. Is it because we? Is it because we have brown skin, thick black hair, and our last name is Mendez? Rules are rules, said the secretary. The Mendez children have to go to the Mexican school. I will not be enrolling any of them then, said Aunt Soledad, and she stormed out the office, taking Silva and the other children with her. How would you feel if this happened today? When they arrived, Aunt Soledad told Silva's father what had happened. Mr. Mendez told her not to worry. It had to be a mistake. He could take care of it. He was a businessman. He was used to dealing with people. The next day, Mr. Mendez met with Mr. Harris, the superintendent of the Westminster School. Mr. Mendez explained that his family had moved to a nearby farm. The public school on 17th Street is the closest school to our house, and my children should attend it. Your children have to go to the Mexican school, said Mr. Harris. But why? He wasn't given any answer other than, "This is how it's done." In the following days, Mr. Mendez went with Mr. Atkinson, the county superintendent, Mr. Harris superior, and then with the school board, which oversaw all the schools in Orange County. And they all said the same thing. your children have to go to the Mexican school. But why? Mr. Mendez kept asking. No one would give him a satisfactory answer. Do you think this is unfair? That fall, Silver and her brothers had to attend Hoover Elementary, better known as the Mexican school, Olive Street in the city of Westminster. The building was a clapboard shack, and the hallways were not spacious or clean. The cow pastures surrounded the school. There was an electric wire that surrounded the pet store to keep the cows in. If you touched it, you receive a shock. The school did not have a playground, not even a swing. Do you think this is inhumane? The Mendez family did not give up. Time and time again, Sylvia heard her father talk with coworkers, friends, and other parents. It's not fair that our children have to go to an inferior school, he said. Not only the building that's the problem, the teachers at the school don't even care about our children's education. They expect them to drop out by the eighth grade. How will our children succeed, become doctors, lawyers, or teachers? Mr. Mendez created the group called the Parents Association of Mexican American Children. He tried to collect signatures for petitions to integrate schools so that all children, regardless of their skin color or background, could have the same opportunities. But every time he asked someone to sign the petition, he would get the same answer: no queremos, no problemas. Dang, we don't want any problems. Many of the parents worked on farms owned by white families and feared that they would lose their jobs if they signed the petitions. Ugh. Do you think this was truly unfair and glad segregation is no longer a thing to exist? One day, a truck driver overheard Mr. Mendez trying to convince the worker to sign his petition. You know, said the truck driver, you could file a lawsuit. The truck driver told Mr. Mendez about a lawyer named David Marcus who filed a lawsuit on behalf of people in San Bernardino and helped them integrate the public pools there. At the time, it was not only schools that were segregated, but also public places such as pools, parks, and movie theaters. Some businesses even had signs that read "No dogs or Mexicans allowed." Mr. Mendez decided right then and there to hire Mr. Burgess, even if it meant spending his life savings to do so. Do you agree that segregation should have never existed to begin with? Over the next few months, Mr. Mendez and Mr. Marcus traveled all over Orange County looking for people that have experienced similar problems. Silver watched her father leave early in the morning. Sometimes she saw him come home in the evening, but often she only heard his footsteps when he got in late at night. While he was away, Silver's mother had to take care of the farm. Mrs. Mendez would get Silver and her brothers ready for school. She would go out to the fields. She started the irrigation, drove the tractor, and oversaw the workers and solved any problems that arose. Do you agree that we are all equal and should have never been segregated? With the help of Mr. Marcus, Mr. Mendez found and talked with other families that were dealing with segregation. One of them was the Estrada family. Mr. Estrada fought in World War II. He risked his life next to Americans of all races and backgrounds. But when he came back to America from the war, he found that his children were not allowed to attend school with white children. It's injustice, said Mr. Mendez. It's an injustice. The Estrada family joined the Mendez case, and so did three more families. The families were for different school districts in Orange County, Westminster, where Silva lived, Garden Grove, El Madonna, and Santa Ana. Mr. Marcus wanted to show that segregation of students affected not only Silver and her brothers, but more than 5,000 children in the public school system all over Orange County. On March 2nd, 1945, Mr. Marcus went to the courthouse and filed the lawsuit. Do you agree that it was injustice for minorities to not be allowed to go to school with whites, even though all races serve war with each other, just to be casted aside after it's over? The trial was held at the courthouse in Los Angeles. Silver and her family dressed in their best clothes and sat in the courthouse to listen. The hearing lasted 5 days. Each day, Mr. Marcus would call to stand parents from the different districts in Orange County and superintendents from different districts too. On the first day, Mr. Kent, the superintendent of Garden Grove District, was questioned. He said he sent the children to the Mexican school to improve their English. That is a lie, thought Silva. Her English was as good as any of the children at the Westminster school. Do you give the children any tests? Said Mr. Marcus. Mr. Kent claimed he did. We do so by talking to them. That's another lie, Silva wanted to yell, but nobody had questioned her. They rejected her from the Westminster school without asking her a thing. For other reasons, for what other reasons did you send the children to the Mexican school? Asked Mr. Marcus. Silva and her family braced themselves to hear what Mr. Kent would say next. For their social behavior, they need to learn cleanness of mind, manner, and dress. They are not learning that at home. They have problems with lice, impetigo, and tuberculosis. They have generally dirty hands, face, neck, and ears. The Mendez family in the room stared at Mr. Kent disbelieved. What he was not saying was true. It was degrading. How many of the 292 children at the Mexican school are inferior to whites in personal hygiene? Asked Mr. Marcus. At least 75%. And in their scholastic ability, 75%. In what perspective are they inferior? In their economic outlook, their clothing, their ability to take part in activities of the school. Do you believe that white students are superior to Mexicans in the respects you have mentioned? Yes. That is one of the reasons they're being segregated? Yes. Time and time again, Mr. Mendez had asked, why can't my children attend the Westminster School? Now he had his answer. Do you think Mr. Kent is being stereotypical? On the second day, Mr. Marcus called to stand a 14-year-old student from the Mexican school in El Medina. Her name was Carol Torres. She spoke perfect English. It was clear that she had not been sent to the Mexican school because she had problems speaking the language, as the defense lawyers claim. Miss Mendez were questioned on the third and fourth day. So was Mr. Harris, the superintendent of the Westminster School. So has not called to the stand, but she was ready to testify if they asked her to. She tried looking her best every morning, practicing what she would answer. On the fifth and final day to the hearing, Mr. Marcus called to the stand two education specialists to explain why it was bad to segregate children into different schools. Segregation tends to give an aura of inferiority. In order to have the people of the United States understand one another, it's necessary for them to live together. In the public school, it's one of the mechanisms of all children of all people go, one of them said. The judge nodded his head, and he agreed with this. Do you agree on what she was set on living together helps understand another? Judge Paul McCormick took almost a year to give his decision, but when he did, he ruled in favor of the Mendez family. His ruling is that public public education must be open to all children in unified school association, regardless of lineage. That means everybody is allowed to attend school, no matter of his or her race or background. The Mendez victory made newspaper headlines. Silva's family was ecstatic, but they did not have much time to celebrate because the school board appealed the decision. That is, they asked Judge with more authority to review the case and change the result. What? The case was reviewed by the Court of Appeals in San Francisco. What do you think about Paul McCormick taking almost a year for his answer? On the appeal, Mendez family received support of the League of Latin American Citizens, the National Association for Advancement of Colored People, the Japanese American Citizens League, the American Jewish Congress, and other organizations. These groups sent letters with information relevant to the case and asked the judge to rule in favor of the Mendez family. Silver was amazed that people of all different backgrounds in different parts of the country who never even met her family were getting involved in the case trying to help them. But her mother said, like I said, please do not slander me. Don't slam me on my bad Spanish. Condano la causa y justicia. Lo demás te seguro. When you fight for justice, others will follow. On April 15, 1947, the judges of Courts of Appeals in San Francisco ruled in favor of the Mendez family again. That June, Governor Earl Warren signed the law that all children in California are allowed to go to school together, regardless of race, ethnicity, or language. How do you feel knowing that segregation affected so many families? So remember, said Silva's mother, we fought so to make sure you could attend a good school with equal opportunities. Silva thought long and hard about what her mother said. The next day, she returned to the Westminster School. This time, she did not listen to any of the whispers. She ignored the children who pointed at her, called her names. Instead, she held her head high. Her family had not fought for only her and her brothers, but for all of her classmates. Looking around, she saw the other children were smiling at her. At the end of the day, she had made a friend. At the end of the school year, she had made many friends with different backgrounds. She knew that her family fought for that. What more equality do you now know after reading this book? How do you feel about the book we read?